Let us see main exercise of chapter 1. Question number 1 is, what is the force between two small charged spheres having charges 2 into 10 raised to minus 7 coulomb and 3 into 10 raised to minus 7 coulomb placed at 30 centimeter apart in air? See, here it is said that these are two small charged spheres. So they are small charged sphere, that's why we can apply Coulomb's law. So let us see the solution. Here the Coulomb's force that is F is equal to, we know the equation, kq1 q2 upon r square. So we are having all the values, we can put that. K is 9 into 10 raised to 9 and the charge q1 is 2 into 10 raised to minus 7 multiplied by another charge q2 is 3 into 10 raised to minus 7 divided by the distance is 30 centimeters, so we will put 0.30 meter square, and solving this we will get 6 into 10 raised to minus 3 Newton of force, and this force will be obviously repulsive because both the charges are positive. So here is the first answer. Another question is, the electrostatic force on a small sphere of charge 0.4 microcoulomb due to another small sphere of charge minus 0.8 microcoulomb in air is 0.2 Newton. Means force between these two charges is given as 0.2 Newton. Obviously it will be attractive of kind, it is one is negative charge, another is positive charge, so the force will be attractive. Here we need to find out A, what is the distance between the two spheres, and B, what is the force on the second sphere due to the first sphere. Let us see the solution. First we will solve A. Now as per Coulomb's law, we know the equation, that is F is equal to K q1 q2 upon r square. So from this now we can write r square is equal to K q1 q2 upon F. Now because we are having all these values, we can put them. K is 9 into 10 raised to 9 multiplied by q1. See, q1 is 0.4 microcoulomb, so it is 0.4 multiplied by 10 raised to minus 6, and q2 is 0.8 microcoulomb, so it is 0.8 into 10 raised to minus 6. See, here this magnitude form, this equation is in a magnitude form, that's why we need not to put any minus sign there, and the force is 0.2 Newton. So solving this we will get r square as 144 into 10 raised to minus 4 Newton, and so from that we can now find r. Obviously it will be root of this, so that is 12 into 10 raised to minus 2 meter, or you can also say it is 0.12 meter. So this is our answer A. Now for answer B, it's very simple. They ask what is the force on the second sphere due to the first. Now Coulomb's law obey Newton's third law. So we can just write as per Newton's third law, F21 will be equal to F12. That means force on 2 due to 1 will be equal to force on 1 due to 2. And so here it is asked that what is the force on the second sphere due to first. So F21 is the force. This F21 is the force on 2 due to 1, but that will be equal to F12. That means it will be equal to force due to 2 on 1, and this force is that only. This is the force on first due to second. So we can just put the value, which is 0.2 Newton. Obviously, this force will be also attractive. Both the spheres will be attracting each other. So here is our second answer. And the force is attractive. Let's see question 1.3. Check that the ratio k square upon g me mp is dimensionless. See, this k is the proportionality constant in the Coulombian equation. E is the charge of electron, g is the gravitational constant, m is the mass of electron, and mp is the mass of proton. And we need to prove that this ratio is dimensionless. Look up a table of physical constants and determine the value of this ratio. We need to find out the value of this ratio because all of these constants are having some value, and from that we need to find out the value of this ratio. What does the ratio signify? We have to also explain what does this ratio signify. Let's see the solution. Here we need to find out the dimension of this ratio. Let me write k square upon g, me and mp. So for that, first we will find out the dimension of k square. Now we know that F is equal to, you can write, for if 2 electrons are there, you can write k square upon r square. So from that, k square can be written as fr square. Now if it is fr square, the unit will be, for force it is Newton and here it is meter square. And so we can write the dimension formula. See, for force it is m1 L1 T minus 2, and for meter square it will be L2. So as a whole it will be L3. M1 L3 T minus 2 is the dimension formula of the numerator. Now for the denominator, we know the equation of gravitational force between electron and proton can be written as g me mp upon r square. So from this you can write g me mp is equal to fr square again. And so if it is fr square, then again the dimension formula will be m1 L3 and T minus 2. That means it is having no dimension, it is just becoming 1. So it is dimensionless. This is dimensionless. Now we will find out the value of this ratio given. So let me write it. It is k e square upon g me and mp. Now I will put all the values K is obviously 9 into 10 raised to 9, and E square, E is charge of electron 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 and whole square. Divide by G, G is 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 11 into mass of electron, that is 9.1 into 10 raised to minus 31 multiplied by mass of proton, that is 1.66 into 10 raised to minus 27. Now calculating all of these values, we will get something 2.29 into 10 raised to 39. So this was our second answer, that we need to find out the value of this ratio. I am putting them again, and here is the second answer. The first answer was is dimensionless, and the second answer is here. Now we have to understand the significance of this ratio. Let's see that. First, let me remove this all rough work, and then we will again put the ratio. Now let me put the ratio again. See, this is a K E square upon G MEMP. So I can write this as K E square upon R square and G ME MP upon R square. But now this becomes the Coulombian force, or say electric force, and this is the gravitational force. So this is a ratio of electric force and gravitational force. So let me put it like that: Fe upon Fg. Fe is the electric force and Fg is the gravitational force. That is this ratio K square upon G MEMP, and we know the value. So let me put that again. Fe upon Fg is, we know this ratio, 2.29 into 10 raised to 39. So this suggests that Fe upon Fg, that is the ratio of electric force and gravitational force, is this much, which is a quite large value, very large value, 10 raised to 39. That means we can say that Fe, means the electric force, is very greater than the gravitational force. Electric force is very greater than the gravitational force. This is what the ratio signifies. We have been asked to find out the significance of this ratio. So this ratio signifies that the electric force is very larger than the gravitational force. Now let us see question 1.4. A. Explain the meaning of the statement electric charge of a body is quantized. And B. Why one can ignore quantization of electric charge when dealing with a macroscopic, that means the large charges, large scale charges. Okay, let us see. Let me show you a figure here. Suppose this is a charged body, any sort of charged body. this is a charged body, and let us say the charge is here Q. Now the question is, why any object is charged at all? Any object. See, any object is made out of atom, and every atom is having two type of charges. One is proton, which is positively charged, and one is electron, which is negatively charged. So if any object is charged, so it is basically due to this proton and electron. If the number of proton and electron are same, then it will be neutral, because both are having same amount of charge and one is positive, another is negative. That's why the total charge will be 0. But suppose one body is having only protons, then what will happen? Suppose we are talking about any big nucleus only, and suppose this body, what I am showing is already a nucleus, so it's a charged body, and let us say it is having a charge Q. Now let me show you a small experiment. If I zoom it, then you can see this picture. Now see this. Here, suppose every particle what I have shown is, let us say, proton. Then obviously every proton is having a charge that is E. Every proton here will be having charge equal to E. And that's why when you take the total charge, now when you say E, then we know that E is equal to 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb is the amount of charge of one proton, and even for one electron. So these are, let us say, total n number of charged particles, that means protons, and so it is very obvious that the total charge will be equal to n into E. It cannot be less than that, because it cannot be more than that, because every particle is having total E charge, and so the whole amount of charge will be Ne. Means there is no half proton, there is no half electron, so we cannot assume there will be something like let us say some 0.5 E is possible. So it is not possible. So coming back to the picture, here is our situation. If we are seeing this object, then as I said, we are saying that this object is having charge Q, then that charge Q has to be equal to Ne, where N is the number of protons involved in this, and E is the charge of one proton. So obviously it becomes Q is equal to Ne. This is known as quantization of charge, means the charge is in integer multiple of E. That means here N is either 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 and so on. You can understand, as I said, as I shown you, that every particle, that means the proton is there, and so that will be some number of that proton will have some number, and so the charge Q will be equal to that number N multiplied by the charge E, and obviously in that case Q is equal to Ne. This is known as quantization, means the amount of charge is quantized. It is made out of many quanta of E. E is a quanta amount, and N is the number. So Q charge is made out of many quanta of E. That's why this is known as quantization of charge, and it is very true for every object. Right now I have taken one example only for, let us say, proton, but if you take any other substance, let us say any object, if you take any charge object, let us say you take a charge comb, when you take a charge COM, so we say that it is having excess electron. Now it is having excess electron, but that electron has been shifted from which it was rubbed. Suppose it was rubbed with fur, so the electrons are shifted from fur. Otherwise, COM itself was having same amount of proton and same amount of electron, so it was neutral, but it received some amount of electron, and that's why it became negatively charged. Now this electron will be in integer value always. There cannot be half electron possible, it's not possible. So all the electrons will be in integer value. That's why the total charge on that COM will be also having the equation Q is equal to Ne to be followed. So that charge is also quantized. So anywhere in this world, whatever charge you see is due to either the excess of electron or either the excess of proton, and that's why the charge will be always quantized and it will be following Q is equal to Ne equation. Second answer for this only, why can one ignore the quantization of electric charge when dealing with macroscopic or say large scale charges? See, this is what we have shown. Here I have shown a nucleus, let us say, and for this nucleus we are applying Q is equal to Ne, because at least for nucleus we can calculate the number of proton, and so it will be following Q is equal to Ne. But this is as I said, this is a nucleus. Now atom is 10 raised to 5 times larger. Atom is 10 raised to 5 times larger than this nucleus. Now assume an atom which is 10 raised to 5 times larger than this. Then the atom itself is 1 upon 10 raised to 10 part of 1 meter. One atom is having a size of 10 raised to minus 10 meter. That means it is 1 upon 10 raised to 10th part of 1 meter. So you can understand how small it is. And in that atom, this is 1 upon 10 raised to 5th part, means 1/1,000,000th part of that atom. So what the point is that when we discuss about large scale charges, let's say a whole big macroscopic object is having charge, then this number n will be very, very high. This n will be very, very greater than 0, means it will be very large number, and in that case this Q charge will be also very greater than 0, means it will be also a very large number. So in this case we can ignore the quantization effect, because here the number is so large that you will not you will get the charge in a linear form also, almost in a linear form, means you will be able to get charge of any amount. Means if you ask, I want 1 microcoulomb, you can get, you ask 2 microcoulomb, you can get, you ask let us say 2.5 microcoulomb, you ask you can get, and if you ask let us say 10 kilocoulomb, you can get, you ask 10.2 kilocoulomb, that also you can get, because in 1 coulomb, again in 1 coulomb, let me tell you, in 1 coulomb there are 6.25 into 10 raised to 18 electrons or protons are involved. If it is positive, then this much proton, and if it is negative, then this much electron. So when the number is so large, when the number is so big, in that case quantization effect can be ignored, because you can get almost all amount of charge whatever you ask. That's why in macroscopic object, that means the large scale object, this quantization can be ignored. Now let us see question 1.5. When a glass rod is rubbed with a silk cloth, charges appear on both. A similar phenomena is observed with many other pairs of bodies. Explain how this observation is consistent with the law of conservation of charge. Yes, this is found with many objects. Means like if you rub a comb, that means if you rub a plastic on fur, then plastic will become negatively charged and fur will become at the same time positively charged. But all of this phenomenon is basically an expression of conservation of charge only, because let me show you. If here is a rod, let us say this is a rod, this is a glass rod, and you are rubbing it on a silk cloth. This is silk. Here is a silk cloth, and as I said, this is glass rod. Now, normally they both will be neutral. They both are having atoms and they both will be neutral. That's why when we rub them, what happens? When we rub them, electrons are being transferred from this rod to the silk. This is, I am showing electron. So, large number of electrons are being shifted from glass rod to silk. Now, first let me clarify one thing, that initially the total charge, if I say the total charge, then total charge on the silk was 0. As I said, it was neutral, and on the glass rod was also 0. That's why the total charge was 0 initially. Now, finally, what will happen? Let us say, due to the transfer of electron, this rod will be positively charged, because now electrons are transferred. That's why the number of electron will reduce, but the number of proton is the same, and so it will become positively charged. At the same time, silk was neutral, but now silk is getting some amount of excess electron, and that's why silk will become negatively charged. So in this case, we can say that, let us say this is having some n number of electron. So the charge will be Ne, rather we should write minus Ne, and obviously that n electrons are transferred from this glass rod, so it will have plus Ne charge, because now n number of protons are excess than the electron. That's why it will have Ne positive charge. So again, if we say, again the total charge Q, if I calculate, then Q will be minus Ne plus Ne, and so the answer is 0. Now what the case is, you can see Q initial, let me write it here, Q initial and Q final, both are having the same amount. Initially Q initial was 0 and Q final is also 0. So this process is basically an expression of law of conservation of charges. Law of conservation of charge is not violated here, that you can see.